We live in interesting times for the headlines. Some lawmakers at the House of Representatives condemned the alleged bullying incident involving an Ateneo de Manila junior high school student, as seen on several videos that went viral. London's Gatwick Airport reopens after a limited number of flights after mysterious drone sightings caused chaos that left hundreds of thousands of passengers stranded. Japanese prosecutors rearrest former Nissan boss Carlos Ghosn over fresh financial allegations. And Iglesia Ni Cristo members in the UK held a Police Appreciation Day. Amalma Angeles, wherever you're watching from around the world, thank you very much for joining us, and now to the news. Some lawmakers at the House of Representatives condemned the alleged bullying incident involving an Ateneo de Manila junior high school student. Now, this was seen on several videos that went viral, stressing that there's no place for bullying in academic institutions. Take a look. One of the videos showed the implicated student taunting and attacking the victim inside a comfort room, with the latter ending up with a bloodied nose. In the video, a junior high school from Ateneo, who is also a martial arts athlete, was seen beating up a fellow student after letting him choose between his dignity or getting beaten. Now, this didn't sit well with the netizens, and soon enough, memes and pages under his names were sprouting up. The video that was posted was obviously reported by some people. This is why Facebook had been deleting it. Complications of the video, or compilations rather, of the videos. There are several videos that show Joaquin Montes bullies people, photos and other proof being shared online. Now, Ako Bicol Party List Representative Rodel Bato Cabe, an author of the anti-bullying law, was saddened that such an incident is still happening, even as he slammed the alleged attempt to suppress this mortifying truth by preventing parents and students to share the videos. He said, quote, "We urge ADMU, or Ateneo de Manila University, to be transparent and take concrete actions to give justice to the boy who was bullied and his parents, while committing the obviously dysfunctional and sick bully to counseling and professional medical help." Bataan Representative Geraldine Roman echoed Bato Cabe's sentiment, saying there's no place in society for hate and violence, especially in schools. Roman urged the public to immediately report any acts of bullying to the authorities. Bagong Generacion Party List Representative Bernadette Herrera D. meanwhile said the video evidence must be preserved for any future legal proceedings. To other news now, Defense Secretary Jim Mattis resigned in protest of President Trump's decision to withdraw American forces from Syria and his rejection of international alliances. Officials said Mattis went to the White House with his resignation letter already written, but nonetheless made a last attempt at persuading the president to reverse his decision about Syria. Mr. Mattis, a retired four-star Marine general, was rebuffed. Now, returning to the Pentagon, he asked aides to print out 50 copies of his resignation letter and distribute them around the building. Take a look. Meanwhile, House Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi said she's shaken by the resignation of U.S. Defense Secretary Jim Mattis for what it means to our country. while U.S. Senator Chuck Schumer states that, quote, there is chaos now in this administration. Take a look.
I am shaken by the resignation of General Mattis for what it means to our country, for the message it sends to our troops, and for the indication of what his view is of the Commander-in-Chief. Our troops look to Secretary Mattis as a leader, and now he is going to be leaving them. This is very serious for our country. I yield.
Secretary Mattis was one of the few symbols, the few items of strength and stability in this administration. Everything that indicates stability, everything that indicates strength, everything that indicates knowledge is leaving this administration. Exactly. There is chaos now in this administration. This week was one of the most chaotic weeks we've ever seen in American government, and amazingly, they want to close the week, President Trump does, by shutting down the government. Shutting down the government.
A Syria troop pullout announced by the White House could allow the Islamic State group to rebuild. That is according to the Kurdish-dominated force battling the jihadists on the ground. And they warned this on Thursday, U.S. time. The SDF, an alliance of Kurdish and Arab fighters which has spearheaded the ground battle against the jihadists, warned a pullout would allow ISIS to regroup and launch a counter-attack. Take a look.
قرارة ترامب قرارة استمديك قرارك إخامتي بملتي كرد ركن أم تجي بيات سكنت لأمشي وراتي خبرنادن
حبار رجانا إيرو هر خيانة بكردارة دبا كي هاتية قوتية أموال نجيح هركس يعني بخيانة نزيك في كردار دبا جبر ولوجي مقود أزدي ساقدارة دكم جبر خيانة القوهيدي ماتتية أم إيدي باوريا ونم كسيدين ونم يعني أم بندا كسيد مين
القوات الأمريكية يسد الفراغ هو قواتنا السورية والحكومة السورية أحسن ما يجي غزاة أتراك أو ما شابه يسدوا هالموضوع هذا. الوجود الأمريكي غير شرعي بالأراضي السورية ولابد أن يروحوا والاحتلال قد ما انطال لابد أن ينجلي. صحيح صار الانسحاب باتفاق روسي تركي أو اتفاقات دولية بس بالأخير هو بصب مصلحة البلد والبلد لازم تنال استقلالها وتعيش حريتها ونحن بنهاية الأزمة.
In the Syrian town of Kobane, where the United States alliance with Syria's Kurds began in 2014, thousands of Kurds marched in anger and dismay toward the U.S. military base. The decision represented yet another setback to Kurdish aspirations for some form of statehood, which have repeatedly met disappointment at the hands of the United States. The letdowns began after President Woodrow Wilson pushed for but failed to secure a separate Kurdish state at the 1919 peace conference following the World War I, which drew the borders of the modern Middle East. Now, Kurds say the hopes they have since placed in the U.S. have continued to be dashed. In 1975, the U.S. abandoned support for a Kurdish uprising in Iraq after President Saddam Hussein struck a deal with their ally, the Shah of Iran, in 1991. President George H.W. Bush encouraged Iraqis to rise up against Saddam. But when Kurds in the north and Shiite Arabs in the south responded to the call, the U.S. military refrained from going to their aid. Most recently, the Trump administration last year withheld support for an independence referendum in Iraqi Kurdistan, and Iraqi troops rolled unopposed into areas the Kurds had controlled. The Kurds are divided between four countries: Syria, Turkey, Iraq, and Iran, and riven by sectional disputes of their own. Their dreams of statehood now seem so as far away as ever. Currently, about 2,000 U.S. forces are in the country, most of them on a train and advice mission to support local forces fighting ISIS. Meanwhile, U.S. Senators Lindsey Graham and Bob Corker and House Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi responded to President Trump's orders that U.S. troops withdraw from Syria.
I don't know how this decision was made. It literally came out of left field. It has rattled the world. You see North Korea flexing their muscle now about, well, why don't you leave South Korea before we do a deal? I can promise you that everything that happened in Iraq is going to happen in Syria unless we change course. There's a statement by the President today that the idea that Russia, Assad, and Iran are not really happy about us leaving, I disagree with that. They're ecstatic. The only reason they're not dancing in the aisles in Tehran and ISIS camps is they just don't believe in dancing.
Donald's right. I agree with him, Putin. Imagine that is the comment of Vladimir Putin on the actions taken by the President of the United States in relationship to Syria. A decision made in a cavalier fashion in terms of our allies in the fight against terrorism, a decision that is dangerous, and a decision that is a Christmas present to Vladimir Putin to give him license in Syria.
Honestly, this makes what Obama did in Iraq. It's replicating that, but in many ways it's even worse because, honestly...
The Trump administration has ordered the military to start withdrawing roughly 7,000 troops from Afghanistan in the coming months. President Trump made this decision to pull the troops, about half the number the United States has in Afghanistan now. At the same time, he decided to pull American forces out of Syria. The surprise move stunned and dismayed foreign diplomats and officials in Kabul who are involved in an intensifying push to end the 17-year conflict with the Taliban, which already controls vast amounts of territory and is causing unsustainable Afghan troops casualties. Presidential spokesman Harun Chakansuri said via social media, quote, "If they withdraw from Afghanistan, it will not have a security impact because in the last 4.5 years, the Afghans have been in full control." The United States has also been conducting talks with representatives of the Taliban in what officials have described as discussions that could lead to formal talks to end the conflict. The reduction of American forces in Afghanistan, one American official said, is an effort to make Afghan forces more reliant on their own troops and not Western support.
Two to punch up with the two guys that we got up front.
In other news, Department of Foreign Affairs Secretary Teodoro Locsin Jr. met with U.S. State Secretary Michael Pompeo and sought ways to increase the Philippines-United States cooperation in areas of energy and people-to-people ties. The meeting held in Washington, D.C. was a follow-up to the two foreign ministers' phone conversation last October. Secretary Pompeo and Secretary Locsin also explored opportunities to increase people-to-people ties between our two countries, our long-standing commitment to human rights, and our cooperation to strengthen the Philippines' energy security, according to State Department Deputy Spokesperson Robert Palladino in a statement. The two top diplomats discussed, quote, ongoing efforts to address regional issues such as the South China Sea, North Korea, and counterterrorism. Palladino said the two officials reaffirmed the enduring U.S.-Philippine alliance, including commitments under the Mutual Defense Treaty of 1951. According to the DFA, Locsin also expressed Manila's appreciation for the recent return of the Balanghiga Bells during the meeting. Locsin was accompanied by Ambassador to the U.S., Jose Manuel Romualdez. The U.S. Justice Department announced the indictment of two Chinese government hackers who allegedly targeted 45 companies and agencies in a dozen countries, which U.S. officials said showed Beijing had not fulfilled its pledge to stop such actions. In an operation coordinated with the U.S., allies in Europe and Asia, and Deputy Attorney General said this.
The indictment alleges that the defendants worked for a group known to cybersecurity experts as APT-10. These groups are designated as APTs, or Advanced Persistent Threats, because they use malware to gain access to computer networks and to exfiltrate or steal data over an extended period of time. These defendants allegedly compromised MSP clients in at least a dozen countries, the United States and 11 other countries. It alleges that the defendants worked for a group known to...
The Justice Department said the hackers had targeted numerous managed service providers, or MSPs, specialist firms which help other companies manage their information technology systems, potentially giving hackers an entry into the computer networks of dozens of companies. Rosenstein slammed Beijing for repeatedly violating a pledge made by Chinese President Xi Jinping to then President Barack Obama in 2015 to halt cyber attacks on U.S. companies and commercial infrastructure.
The defendants allegedly committed these crimes in association with a Chinese intelligence agency known as the Ministry of State Security. Now, this is not the first time that the Department of Justice has accused Chinese state actors of stealing commercial information.
You've all heard about situations where you see somebody, essentially the cyber equivalent of breaking into a house. This is more like breaking into and getting the keys from the maintenance supervisor who has keys to hundreds and hundreds of apartments and all the residents in those apartments. And that's why this is so significant.
The Justice Department said the two hackers, Zhu Hua and Zhang Shilong, worked for the so-called APT-10 hacker group, allegedly backed by China's Ministry of State Security. The two worked with the ministry's Tianjin State Security Bureau. The indictments came amid heightened tensions over trade, hacking, and geopolitical issues between Washington and Beijing. On October 30, the U.S. indicted 10 Chinese nationals, including 2 intelligence officers, over a 5-year scheme to steal engine technology from U.S. and French aerospace firms by hacking into their computers. In early December, Canada arrested an executive of China's leading Huawei telecommunications company at Washington's request. The U.S. plans to charge her with fraud charges related to sanctions, breaking business dealings with Iran. Now, since then, China has detained 3 Canadians in an apparent bid to pressure Ottawa into fully releasing the Huawei executive, who is now out on bail. Meanwhile, China's foreign ministry lashed out at the U.S. for fabricating facts on indicting the 2 Chinese hackers on cybersecurity charges, while shrugging off concerns with treatment of detained Canadian Michael Kovrig. Take a look.
美方捏造事实，无中生有，在网络安全问题上对中方进行无端指责，以所谓的网络窃密为由，对2名中方人员进行起诉。此举严重违反国际关系基本准则，严重损害中美关系，性质十分恶劣。中方对此坚决反对，已经第一时间向美方提出了严正的交涉。 长期以来，美国有关部门对外国政府、企业和个人进行大规模、有组织的网络窃密和监控活动，这早已是公开的秘密。美方以所谓的网络窃密名义对中方进行无端指责，纯属倒打一耙、自欺欺人，中方绝不接受。你也挺关心康明凯，他的各种待遇哈，我就不知道当时加拿大因美方的要求非法拘留了中国公民的时候，你们有没有关心到他的待遇、他的人权问题？
In other news, London Gatwick Airport was forced to suspend all flights due to drones flying over the airfield, causing misery for tens of thousands of stuck passengers just days before the holidays. Now it was temporarily opened, partly opened. Flights into Gatwick earlier, south of the British capital, were diverted to other airports, while passengers waiting to take off faced grueling delays. Gatwick is the 8th busiest airport in Europe and sits behind Mumbai as the world's busiest single runway air hub. A cat-and-mouse manhunt is underway to catch the drone operator. 2 drones were first spotted flying over the airport at around 9 p.m. On Wednesday. The airfield briefly reopened at 3 a.m. on Thursday, but had to be closed again following further sightings.
So it would be wrong of me to speculate about how many drones, how many people are involved. But what I can say is there have been a number of sightings of a drone or drones today, and we're working really hard to find out who is behind it, and obviously looking at prosecuting people for committing offences. And to be clear, so we've got a number of resources, probably dozens of officers committed to this at the moment, and numerous behind the scenes as well, not actually boots on the ground. And we continually review our resourcing to make sure that it's effective and that we're working very closely with Gatwick to try and resolve the incidents.
All right, we have a live report coming in from Erlo Bringas, who's now at the Araneta bus terminal. Erlo, can you give us an update in your area? Erlo?
Yes, Alma, our kababayan passengers continue to arrive here in Araneta Center bus terminal as long holiday season break draws near. As of this time, the number of passengers came here at Araneta bus terminal reaching to a total of around 7,000, and in the Araneta bus port that figure might getting high to 8,000 people tonight and over the weekend. But as of this time, some of the bus trips like to the Bicol region and those headed to Samar, Leyte and Bohol are fully booked until the end of the month of December, and the next trips will be available and scheduled for January. Passengers have already anticipated the higher number of travelers and were able to get board quickly towards their out-of-town trips. Other trips to Bicol and Visayas regions got special trips, but they are only first-come, first-served basis only. But other chance passengers here still hoping for an extra trip that they can accommodate by the bus companies. Araneta Center bus terminal management officials said they are expecting more numbers of passengers over the weekend as holiday season draws near. Authorities also reminding the public and the passengers to limit their baggages and do not bring prohibited items such as flammable materials and sharp objects. Passengers are also advised to keep accompanied and watch on their children if they are bringing anyone with them, as well as their belongings. Philippine National Police strictly implement security measures to all passengers here in bus terminal to ensure their safety and security while here in bus terminals. PNP also doubled the numbers of PNP personnel deploying here in many places, like here in Araneta bus terminal and other bus terminals here in Quezon City, to anticipate the criminals who wants to do unnecessary bad things to our kababayan passengers that go through their provinces here in many bus terminals in Quezon City as long holiday seasons draws near. Live here at Araneta bus terminal, Cubao, Quezon City, reporting for Eagle News, Erlo Bringas. I'm 1 with 25. Alma.
Thank you, Erlo. All right, we'll take a break. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Tungkulin na MTRCB ang mag-provide na appropriate ratings sa lahat ng TV shows. Para ugaliin ng pamilya ang responsableng panonood. Teamwork tayo, parents!
Rated G, good for all. Oops, rated PG.
Dapat may mga magulang para sagutin ang mga tanong ng kabataan.
Sabi, rated SPG, maselan!
Itan ang paggabay.
Pag rated MTRCB, rated responsable.
Hi everyone, I'm Maria Marikio, and today I'm here at Haystack Rock in Oregon. So this famous rock formation is a great place to witness sunrise and sunsets. You can set up a picnic blanket and hang out with your friends or family here at the beach. For more stuff like this, tune in to ABC Digital Nest. I'm Rio, and I'm 1 with 25.
Landmarks, Linggo, alas 6 hanggang alas 7 ng gabi.
Welcome back. The Bases Conversion and Development Authority, or BCDA, named the Meralco Marubeni Consortium as the winning bidder for the power distribution contract in New Clark City. BCDA said that the Meralco Marubeni Consortium has submitted the lowest tariff bid of 0.6188 centavos per kilowatt hour, beating the bid of Aboitiz Kepco Consortium at 0.9888 per kilowatt hour. The agency set the tariff ceiling for power distribution in New Clark City at 1 peso and 25 centavos per kilowatt hour. It said it targets to sign the joint venture agreement with the Meralco Marubeni Consortium by early next year. New Clark City, envisioned to be a smart and green city, aims to have the first smart power grid in the country. Last month, BCDA also named Prime Water Infrastructure Corp as the winning bidder for New Clark City's water supply services. Prime Water offers water rates at 9 pesos and 45 centavos per cubic meter. Japanese prosecutors rearrested former Nissan boss Carlos Ghosn over fresh allegations, apparently dashing his hopes of being home for the holidays in the latest twist to a roller coaster saga. He had appeared set for release Friday after a court surprisingly rejected the prosecutor's demand to extend his detention for further questioning. But instead of being freed on bail, Ghosn was arrested Friday over separate allegations of financial wrongdoing. Prosecutors alleged Ghosn shifted a private investment loss of over $16 million onto Nissan in the wake of the 2008 financial crisis. The Japanese securities watchdog apparently knew about the transaction at the time and questioned its legality. Now, sources say Ghosn has denied carrying it out. Prosecutors also suspect he had Nissan's subsidiary transfer nearly $50 million into the account of a person who helped out in the scheme. Ghosn has been locked up in a Tokyo detention center along with his close aide Greg Kelly for almost a month now after the two were arrested. They've since been indicted for allegedly conspiring to underreport Ghosn's income by tens of millions of dollars over a 5-year period starting in 2010. Both have reportedly denied any wrongdoing.
Bon, donc maintenant, aujourd'hui, compte tenu de toutes les...
Going now to the business of show business. South Korean boy band BTS are worth more than $3.6 billion to the country's economy every year, equivalent to the contribution of 26 mid-sized companies, according to a research institute. The floppy-haired songsters were also the reason that 1 in every 13 foreign tourists visited South Korea in 2017. This is according to the Hyundai Research Institute. Known for their boyish good looks and meticulously choreographed dance moves, BTS, short for Bangtan Sonyeondan, which translates as Bulletproof Boy Scouts, have become one of South Korea's best-known and best valuable musical exports. Researchers estimated the group's so-called annual production inducement effect, the total economic value generated by related industries, at 4.1 trillion won or $3.63 billion annually, the same as 26 mid-sized South Korean companies. Some 800,000 tourists were believed to have chosen South Korea as their destination last year because of BTS. More than 7% of the total visitors to the country, more than $1 billion in consumer exports, such as clothes, cosmetics, and foodstuffs were associated with them. If BTS maintain their popularity, the Institute said, they can be expected to generate an economic value of 41.8 trillion won over the next 10 years. And the news continues here on Eagle News International. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Hi guys, I'm Ariel.
And I'm Kenneth. And we're your new hosts for The Break Room.
So please watch us every Monday at 7:30 to 8 in the evening. We are one with 25.
know the latest news and information here and abroad. In Aguila Balita, track the latest happenings in the provinces in Aguila Provincia. Be aware of important events in Asia, in ASEAN in Focus, and be updated in the biggest news around the world in Eagle News International. Tune into Mata ng Aguila and get the day's headlines and news that are sharp, accurate, and objective. Only here at Net 25.
Letters and Music, Lunes hanggang Biyernes, 1:00 hanggang 2:00 ng hapon.
Hi, I'm Madeline. And I'm Samantha. And we're the Callion Twins. Please watch Digital Nest on Net 25 every Tuesday and Thursday at 7:30 p.m. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is Digital Nest EBC. Callion Twins signing off.
Welcome back. Sydney Harbour, in Australia's largest city, is hit by a series of lightning and hail the size of tennis balls. The authorities issued a severe storm warning, but that was not enough to prevent damage that's already running into the tens of millions of dollars. Take a look. Now, Australia's largest city was picking up the pieces Friday after this series of lightning and hailstorms that pummeled cars with ice blocks the size of tennis balls. The authorities issued a severe storm warning, but that was not enough to prevent the damage that is already running to the tens of millions of dollars. The Insurance Council of Australia said as of 6:30 a.m. local time, it's at 15,000 claims and 80 million Australian dollars in damages. When the storms hit, Sydney-siders looked on in desperation as cauliflower-shaped hail smashed through car windshields and turned the harbour into a bubbling and splashing cauldron. Many drivers sought refuge under roof patrol stations, and a few brave surfers in the water at the city's famed Bondi Beach hid under their boards. Hailstorms are fairly common in the state of New South Wales in the Antipodean summer, although one of this scale has not been seen since 1999, when hailstones cost an estimated 1.7 billion Australian dollars in damage. Now, there's been heavy flooding in Vancouver after continuous rainfall hit the city. Take a look.
Dubbed fondly by its locals as Raincouver, the city of Vancouver has been in the past 3 days living up to its nickname. And this city, when it rains, it pours, but not quite like this. In the past few days, the Greater Vancouver area has been experiencing unusually high levels of precipitation, and as a result, many areas are left flooded. Some areas see cars submerged in water because of flooding caused by the torrential rain. Environment Canada has issued a rainfall warning with total rainfall amount of up to 90 millimeters by tomorrow morning. With a rainfall warning in effect, the long days of rain and flooding may be here longer than expected. Kate Concepcion, Eagle News. I'm 1 with 25.
All right, here's Ben Bernaldez for the latest in sports news.
In football, Cuba's impressive baseball talent will no longer have to risk defection and human trafficking to play for American clubs under a deal announced Wednesday that culminated more than 3 years of negotiations. Major League Baseball, its players' union, and the Cuban Baseball Federation made a groundbreaking agreement that will allow players from the communist island nation to sign with North American teams despite political strains between the U.S. and Cuban governments. The MLB-Cuba deal, which lasts through October 2021 unless extended by mutual agreement, installs a posting system similar to those used by MLB with Japanese, South Korean, and Taiwanese leagues when players want to jump to the richer deals of the major leagues. For decades, Cuban officials have sought to keep players on homeland sides and their powerhouse national amateur squads. Players have been forced to defect, often making deals with shady characters, and forced into human trafficking to escape Cuba, forced to go to other nations before being able to sign major league free agent deals. An example of the lengths Cuban players will go to reach MLB is Los Angeles Dodgers outfielder Yasiel Puig, who after multiple failed defection attempts arranged to be taken to Mexico by a drug cartel that kept him hostage until paid $250,000 for his release. Meanwhile, Kylian Mbappe got a glowing happy birthday wish from Pele on Thursday, further feeding football fans comparison of the 20-year-old with the Brazilian legend. The French forward scored 4 goals in this year's World Cup, including one in the final that saw France beat Croatia 4-2 to clinch the trophy. That made him just the second teenager to score in a World Cup final after Pele, who did so in 1958. Pele, 78, has several times used his Twitter account to express his admiration for Paris Saint-Germain's Mbappe. Earlier this month, Pele gave an interview to the Folha de Sao Paulo newspaper in which he highlighted the similarities between his younger self and the French player. In NBA, Miami Heat snapped Houston's 5-game NBA streak with a 101-99 victory on Thursday in a game that saw Rockets point guard Chris Paul injured again. The Rockets came off an 18-point victory over Washington on Wednesday, in which they set a single-game record with 26 three-pointers, were leading 45-37 in the second quarter when Paul, diving to regain control of the ball, clutched his left thigh and quickly departed. The Rockets later said Paul had a left hamstring strain and wouldn't return. The defeat and injury were a double blow for a Rockets team that had looked to be turning the corner after a slow start to the season. With 5 straight wins, they had risen from 14th to 7th in the Western Conference in the space of a week. But the loss of Paul could prove particularly damaging. They lost Games 6 and 7 of the Western Conference Finals last season after Paul suffered a right hamstring injury. Josh Richardson led the Heat with 22 points. Tyler Johnson added 19, producing a layup, while James Harden led the Rockets with 35 points, 12 assists, and 6 rebounds. And these are the stories for EN Sports. I'm Ben Bernaldez, and I am 1 with 25.
Thank you, Ben Bernaldez, and we'll be right back right after this short break.
What's up, everybody? Just like snow in Las Vegas being a rare thing, so are opportunities in life. So whenever they come around, seize the moment. Tune into Digital Nest on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7:30 p.m. only on Net 25. I'm Ahmed Santos, your EBC correspondent, always 1 with 25. Peace!
Hello Digital Nesters, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to watch our future features.
Pep News, Linggo, alas 4 hanggang alas 5 ng hapon.
Federalismo. Maraming mga bansang mauunlad ang nasa ilalim ng sistemang federalismo gaya ng Switzerland, Germany, United States of America, Canada, at Australia. Sa federalismo na kanilang ginagamit, binago nila ang sistema para tumugma sa mga pangangailangan ng kanilang bansa.
Welcome back. Hidden in Rio de Janeiro, a multi-tiered library makes stunned visitors feel like they've walked into a movie set. Take a look. Now, from the outside, it looks like another historic edifice in Rio's rundown city center. But inside, it is a multi-tiered library so spectacular, so ornate, that stunned visitors feel like they've walked into a movie fantasy set. In Harry Potter, we've seen libraries like this, exclaimed Didier Margot, a 57-year-old French tourist. The Royal Portuguese Reading Room, the Real Gabinete Português de Leitura in Portuguese, was built in the late 19th century under the stewardship of an association of Portuguese migrants that still cares for the institution. Its Gothic Renaissance architecture and plethora of carvings, tiles, and sculptures celebrate the glory of the Portuguese discoveries era in the 15th and 16th centuries. Holding some 350,000 books, some of them very rare, the library today is more of a tourist attraction and selfie backdrop than a reading room, though for a few, it remains an indispensable haven for the largest collection of books outside of Portugal. Members of the Church of Christ reached out to the city of Edmonton, donating 100 boxes of food to the city. Thomas I. Likeness reports.
A lot of people take a trip to the grocery store for granted, but for thousands of people in the Alberta capital of Edmonton, buying food is something they sometimes cannot afford. That's where the Edmonton Food Bank comes in. Food Bank volunteer Braden Valliere says a wide range of people often show up on their doorstep.
Right, you know, it's just life, you know, costs money, right? And sometimes you lose your job, sometimes you can't, your car breaks down and you need to feed your kids and you have to decide, what do I do? Fix the car, feed the kids, and you know, it's just basic people. They need it, right, Ernie?
Just ordinary people.
Yeah, everyday people. It's not what you'd think. Some people think it's like a, people just take advantage of it. Really, it's not.
Also contacting the food bank are a number of organizations such as the Iglesia Ni Cristo, or Church of Christ. The church donated more than 100 boxes of food, which Valliere says shows the commitment the church has to the communities it is in.
Oh yeah, thank you. Like, people like this are, you know, they make the world go round, you know, they help each other, they actually care about other people, and you know, without the help of folks like this, the food bank couldn't exist, and you know, wouldn't be able to feed as many people as they do on a monthly basis. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Father Glendo Baitan is the Assistant District Minister of Canada 6, which includes the Edmonton region. He says it's important to help the poor.
This is in line with the teaching of our Almighty God, written in Proverbs 3:27, that we do good things to our fellow men.
Brother Glendo says members of the church are always ready to help out those facing tough times.
Many brethren, most of them are officers, as you can see from my background. They are always united. I would say ready and willing to unite with the church administration, not only in this kind of activity. In fact, many of our activities with the aim of not only strengthening the faith of those who are members of the church, but also reaching out to those who are not members of the church, helping them with their needs in this life, and most especially, given the chance, also with their needs when it comes to their spiritual lives.
The Edmonton Food Bank serves about 20,000 people per month. Today's donation by the Church of Christ will provide about 3,000 meals for people who would otherwise go hungry. Reporting from Edmonton, Thomas I. Likeness, Eagle News. I'm one with 25.
Thank you, Thomas. Meanwhile, in the United Kingdom, Iglesia Ni Cristo members held a Police Appreciation Day. Here's Jordan Season.
Welcome to our Police Appreciation Day. As we know, policemen work hard to keep our homes and communities safe, even at times they risk their lives. That's why members of the Church of Christ here in Heathrow, United Kingdom, are holding this event to recognise them for their great efforts.
You're different, but that's okay, because we follow God's word always. Hold on to your faith, and in the end, you'll receive your salvation. It's true, you're different, but that's okay, because we follow God's word always. Hold on to
Children participating in this event prepared Christian music songs for the police officers to show their gratitude for keeping us safe.
So don't let the world influence you. You must influence the world.
Awards and medals were also given to the police officers, showing appreciation on this event set up by the Iglesia Ni Cristo Church of Christ. They even let us try their policing.
I'm PC Charlie Lacey.
Jordan Stanley. That's it. So you're looking in camera. That's it.
Why did you decide to join?
I joined the police because I want to help people. That's it really. It's about helping people, about giving back to my community, locking up the bad guys.
What was your favourite part of the job?
Can you please say what's your favourite part of being a police officer?
My favourite part is I don't chase bad people anymore. Like my sergeant says, I send the younger ones out chasing them. But it's locking up the bad guys and making sure that everyone's happy and healthy. You know, it's giving back and looking after people. You know, we should always look after each other, and being a police officer is a big part of that.
What did you like about today's event?
Me, I like the singing. That was really good. And then I like the food. It's all about the food, trying different cultures' food. It's really good experience.
Thank you.
All right.
Any other questions? You can't remember. So thank you.
Thank you.
You're more than welcome.
What did you like about today's event?
Well, it's fantastic to meet you all, and you've been such wonderful hosts. Good stuff. Right.
Reporting from the Police Appreciation Day here in Heathrow, United Kingdom, I am Jordan Season, and I am 1 for 25.
Thank you, Jordan. And that's it for tonight's broadcast. I'm Alma Angeles, always 1 with 25. Good night.